So where we are right now, as of tonight, it does look uh, uh, increasingly likely. I don't want to say certain, certainly not in relation to these kinds of elections, but it does look almost certain that the GOP will take the House. So we can. It looks like we can begin to breathe a sigh of relief. I know I'm with a lot of you. I'll wait till I see it. But if you caught my first video this morning, NBC had a very thoroughgoing assessment of the seats that remain, and of those seats, they were pretty sure that 99.5% sure that the House is going to go GOP. So right now, the official count is that GOP has 212 seats, Democrats have 204. We need 218. Okay, there are 4 races where the Republican leads by at least 5 points. So that'd be like California 45. That's that look Steele, I think, is the Republican's name. Michael Steele, I think. Mike Garcia in California 27. 70-80% of the vote is in for these races, but for whatever reason they haven't been called yet. But these all 4 races look very good. Then there are 2 races where the Republican leads anywhere between 1.5% and just shy of 5%. So that's Kevin Calvert in California 41. And then you have New York 12 with Brandon Williams. Actually, that just got called. Yahoo News is reporting that got called. So Republican Williams won that one. If we win all these races, it's over. We hit 218. And so that's why New York Times, that's why NBC News, they're all saying basically the Republicans got this. And then there are 4 races where Republicans are up by less than a point, but they've taken the lead and they haven't gotten rid of it. So this is Arizona 6, 1, Siscomoni. It looks like he's pulling that out because the remaining vote is heavily GOP. Lauren Boebert, if you guys know, obviously in Colorado, that she's in this category. She's been up by over 1,000 votes now for the last few days. So she seems like she's holding on to a lead there. And then you have there's a couple of more seats, but when all's said and done, this is why NBC is saying you can basically bank 99.5% accuracy. GOP is going to walk away with 219 seats. Others are predicting more like 221, 222. Now, of course, anything can happen, but that looks like where we are right now. And it seems it's pretty set that we're going to take the House. Now, having said that, and if I can maybe even jump ahead a little bit, because I'm gonna presage the questions that I'm sure we're gonna get. Having said that, then the fundamental question is, what the hell happened? Republicans, it looks like, won the national vote by 4 points. So in other words, Republicans came out and the Republican candidates won by a total of 4 points, 4 points more than Democrats. That's a 7-point swing from 2020 that had a Democrat +3 turnout. Republicans appear to have had, the exit polls show, Republicans had across the board a +4. That's exactly what bipartisan pollsters predicted. They predicted around +4, +5, +6. In every prior historical election, this would have translated into something akin to a 1994 landslide proportion. Republican picking up governorships, taking the House, taking the Senate, taking state legislatures, you name it. And in some key areas, that's exactly how it played out. We did the best we ever did in the last 30 years in New York. Half the GOP pickups were in one state alone, in the bluest of blue states, New York. That's why there's such an effort right now to get Lee Zeldin to replace that disaster Ronna McDaniel as head of RNC. We had a record number of supermajorities in state legislatures. 23 states are now GOP triumvirates, like Texas. So the GOP owns the governorship, and they own both chambers of the legislature. Of course, Ron DeSantis, was the king of it. He led this massive GOP supermajority takeover of Florida. Remember, Florida is supposed to be a very reliable purple state, right? It's supposed to oscillate back and forth between. It's supposed to be Charlie Crist. That's what Florida is. Sometimes it's Republican, sometimes it's Democrat, sometimes it's independent, right? But Florida is now officially MAGA country. It is totally supermajority. We saw comparable supermajorities form in Montana for the first time in their legislative history. Republicans took over supermajority. Iowa, Ohio, West Virginia solidified even got bigger. Kentucky, Republicans now own 80% of Kentucky's seats. Democrats are to Kentucky what Republicans are to Baltimore. Okay, they're becoming basically extinct in the state of Kentucky. Same with West Virginia. So Manchin has a big problem in 2024. That's why a lot of people are wondering if he's going to flip. We flipped state Supreme Courts, especially like in North Carolina, that was notoriously liberal for decades. We flipped a number of school boards, the 1776 Project, and we crushed two of the darlings of the Democrats, Stacey Abrams and Beto O'Rourke. But it didn't happen everywhere. And so astonishingly, there were no bellwether states. Generally speaking, what happens in like Ohio and Florida, or like Ohio, Iowa, and Florida, sort of a combination of those three, if there are trends that are happening there, then there are trends that are happening all around, because Florida tends to be the trend for the South. And Ohio and Iowa are the trends for the Midwest and going through Missouri and on westward. There were no bellwethers. The bellwethers are gone. So Republicans ended up losing almost every single toss-up seat outside of New York, Florida, and Texas. There was a red wave in New York with Long Island going full Republican. All four representatives from Long Island are now Republican. Number of pickups. We knocked out one of the most powerful Democrats out there. A guy who's in charge of the committee for raising funds, fundraising committee there. You had Republicans winning governorships, but losing senators, right? Like you saw in New Hampshire, Nevada, and almost Georgia, though there's a runoff there. So in short, like what I said in my morning video on Wednesday, this was an election where incumbents on both sides won. Every person blaming Trump or bad candidates endorsed by Trump or abortion or whatever attempt we're trying to find here for a meta paradigm for explaining the results, they're going to have to show a single national race where a non-incumbent rose up and beat a well-funded incumbent opponent. Again, the exceptions in New York don't help you, because Trump was a key factor for Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin embraced his relationship with Trump, as most Republicans in New York did. So when all is said and done, J.D. Vance wrote a really great piece for the American Conservative, just published today. J.D. Vance, of course, won big, but he argued when all said and done, he thinks the key factors were threefold. He thinks twofold, and I would add a third. The Democrats outspent us 3-1 in key races. Okay, now, and keep in mind, we now know some of that money was coming from Ukraine. That's the big FTX scandal that hopefully we can talk about tonight as well as the blatant steal that we're seeing right now with Katie Hobbs in Arizona. What's happening in Arizona is it makes Saddam Hussein elections look honest by comparison. So they outspent us 3-1. And they outplayed us with early vote mail-in ballots in key races. Again, it didn't happen in North Carolina or Florida or Texas or Tennessee or Oklahoma or Missouri or anything like that. But in key races, we were totally outplayed in the vote-in, mail-in ballot crap. And in that sense, it was 2020 all over again. And along with those two factors, I would add Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy actively trying to sabotage the MAGA vote by diverting funds away from MAGA candidates, giving it to people like Lisa Murkowski, who's running against a freaking Republican. So you had a perfect storm of very strategic races, 3-to-1 spending, effective ballot harvesting, and Republican establishment sabotage. And again, that's key. They were specific races that did not translate into red states. Red states got redder. But in virtually all the contested states, the 3-to-1 money advantage and the early vote ballot schemes, together with a total lack of get out the vote campaign, because Republican leadership was just not into this election. They were scared to death of a MAGA wave. It all seems to have effectively stopped that red wave. So there you go. That's just that's kind of a nutshell of, I think, where we stand right now. And then we can dive into what we can do about it, or if we can get deeper into certain things there.